All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jonasanez Den. We got a lot to go over today because some big things have been happening now. Some big things are going on. So, what we need to do is go over this and see what is happening. So, diving right into it, firstly, in Russia, Putin has called for an emergency meeting. He called for an emergency meeting to take place, which, well, that's pretty big. Yeah, he has called for an emergency meeting to take place in Russia. And this emergency urgent meeting also has been called to summon the top officials in Russia for this emergency meeting that is being called by Russia, which we don't know what it is, but this probably has to do, I would say, that this probably has to do with what just happened with us, the U.S., deciding to take a C-17 Globemaster free transport plane and using it to go over into, to be able to go over into and land in Moscow. And this is a big deal because why are we going to Russia? Here you can see the video of the U.S. Air Force transport aircraft landing in Moscow today. Yeah, so earlier today, we got this video of it landing in Moscow. We still without necessarily a purpose that we know of. But what we do know is that this transport plane is usually for personnel, vehicles, and equipment for senior level travel. But it is also being used by Pete Hegseth on sensitive or unannounced missions. And armed on this plane is CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who traveled to Moscow by the C-17 plane that landed today in Moscow. So, why did we go there? The officials and the Russian government have stated they don't have any information on this plane at all. So they are saying they didn't know, so they're acting just as surprised as what we are. And on top of this, with how urgent this meeting is, Putin had several major events scheduled for the day, but he decided to cancel all of the events that he had planned that people were preparing for in the hundreds. Apparently, it was because the event got canceled due to the visit from the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, according to journalists over there. But was that really the reason that he called off these major events? I don't think it was necessarily due to the CIA director making a visit over there. I don't think that's necessarily the reason he called off these major events that he had planned. Because not only did he cancel this, but he called for an urgent emergency meeting with top officials. So, something big is happening, and we are getting involved with the CIA director going over there and them now claiming they did not know that he was coming. So I don't think we necessarily made him cancel it with our visits. I think that he canceled his major events and called this emergency meeting because something big is happening and something big is coming, and they need to be prepared for what is going to happen, which is why they're calling this emergency meeting, so they can discuss what is going to be happening. And here in possibly the next 48 hours, something big will probably be coming from Russia. Something will probably be coming from Russia really big because of this emergency meeting that was called by Putin out of the blue. So, you don't just necessarily call emergency meetings unless there's something big going on that you need to hide under the rug and make sure that it is kept under wraps so that you can be prepared. So I don't think that they canceled all of the events necessarily due to us coming over, but because this emergency meeting is a big issue and they realize that and need to take it down now. So, that's what I think about this emergency meeting, is that something big, most likely in the next 48 hours, is going to come out and is going to be huge news and breaking from Russia after they have this emergency meeting and discuss what they are going to be doing. And on top of this now, about 49 minutes ago, we got word that the CIA director has now left Moscow. So, whatever we were going over there to discuss or have a secret meeting with them, because it wasn't known he was on the plane at first. So whatever the secret meeting was then the CIA conducted now with Russia is now, it seems like it is over due to us now leaving Russia. So that is what has happened there in that section of it. Now we're going to get into a few of the reasons why the CIA could have been going over there to check in on Russia and why we were over there having a secret meeting with them and what they were planning. Oh, hey. How you doing? Right now we're about to get into the reasons why potentially the CIA director traveled secretly to Russia on the C-17. That's what we are about to be diving into. And one of the first potential reasons I saw, which, well, I don't think it's going to happen, but I could see it, which is John Ratcliffe and Patel meeting with Putin in this trip to help coordinate a massive cyber attack to help spread across social media tons of misinformation in order to make the left look bad so that going into the midterms, the right can win and the president now can stay in power. Because as we know what they can do. We know that they can help spread social media disinformation and spread chaos to interfere within the election to help push it in favor of who they are wanting. Just like what we had seen back in 2020 with Russia interfering in the election then. Because in February and August of 22, the United States intelligence community was warning experts were warning Congress that Russia was indeed interfering with the election at the time. And they were pushing it in favor of Trump on the right. So, they also, coming from the Director of National Intelligence in March 21, found proxies of Russian intelligence promoting and laundering misinformation and making false narratives about Joe Biden and giving this to the U.S. media organizations and officials and prominent individuals to help push Biden into being in a bad light to everybody to try and get it in favor of Trump, which is who Russia was seeking out to win at the time and who they were wanting to win at the time. So, if we know Russia can interfere in the election and can mass produce and spread this misinformation about the political opponent running that they do not want, we know they can do this because we have seen it before. So, this is one of the potential reasons why they could be planning a massive cyber attack on social media to essentially do the same thing so that the Republicans can go and win the midterms and can sweep the left under the rug and not let them come in and ruin what we have going right now in the country. So, that is one potential reason that they could have been meeting for the midterms. We'll just have to find out if they try to. And if they do, like I said, it won't be a surprise because they've done this sort of thing before. Also, in other news of this, it's also been reported that with the APEC Summit happening in China, there is a chance for Putin and Trump to have a direct confrontation and a direct meeting with each other. And we know this. If they both manage to attend and they are both there, most likely it will happen. So if they do both attend, then the chances of them meeting and having a discussion is most likely, and we'll then have something come out about the U.S. and Russia and see what comes of that meeting that could potentially happen between the two. Alongside this, there was not any signals or indications for a meeting between Trump and Putin, but while there may not be any meetings planned for the two, that doesn't matter, because if the two are both there in person, then whether a meeting is planned or not does not matter, because they most likely will end up having a meeting anyways, just because they are both there and present with each other. So that is what is happening there, and about why another potential reason for this trip was to set up a meeting between President Trump and Putin that they say they didn't know about. So that is one potential reason, and another reason why it could be that we traveled over there secretively through a C-17 to have a meeting and cause Putin to have an emergency meeting that he needed to call top level officials into in order to settle this and determine what the next steps are. So we just need to keep a lookout in the next 48 hours to see if we get anything on this emergency meeting called by Putin and the potential outcome of it. So, why do you think that the CIA director secretly flew over on a C-17 to go in to Moscow or to talk with Russia, and on top of it, Russia having an emergency meeting called by Putin to discuss what is happening? I'm curious about what you think is the reason why they're having an emergency meeting on such an issue that they needed to call this out of nowhere with top level officials coming in. Oh, okay, here we go. And now, the last time the CIA director made an unannounced visit to Moscow was before the war with Ukraine. So the last time that we'd done this, just going in like this, was before the war in Ukraine. Interesting. So we've managed to make an announcement and plan it with them most of the time. Interesting. And the meeting, clearly, it was brief because he arrived there today and he is now already gone. So it was not a very long meeting between the two, and with it being such a short meeting, I'm assuming most likely we did not get what we wanted, and it did not go in our favor, which is why we left so soon afterwards, because they would not agree to whatever this was, and it had to be brought up in person because it is such a big issue that we needed to take to them directly. So this is a big meeting that was not planned by Russia, not planned by us, but planned by the CIA director, who knew that we need to let Russia know this now, or things are going to get bad. So, we did. We did. And the fact that we had to go over secretively and unannounced and not even letting them know, like not planning it up with us, not planning it with them, not letting anyone know, shows that whatever the CIA director had, whatever he had, was a very big deal and needed to be addressed very urgently in order for him to pull something off like this. So now we just gotta wait to see if the briefing will come out, and we will see if the meeting will be revealed and what was so urgent that the CIA director had to go over secretively through a C-17 directly to Moscow to discuss with Putin and the others. We'll just have to wait and see. So, yeah, that is the first huge thing happening with the emergency meeting being called with Putin and the secret visit from CIA Director John Ratcliffe to Moscow. So that is what has happened on that front in terms of the emergency meeting. Now, real quick, we're going to be hitting a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to get into economic operation Outcast. So, we'll be right back.
You're so cool, and with my star we're gonna rule. Peach, understand.
Alright, and we are back. There we go. Now, it's time to dive into the economic sanctions and Operation Outcast against Iran and taking down their currency, which is currently sitting at a 2 million to 1 exchange rate with the US dollar, which is an awful exchange rate. You do not want such a bad exchange rate, because that just goes to show you how bad your economy is crumbling and how it compares to the US dollar. So, what has happened is that we are threatening Iran with massive new sanctions through this operation, and we are going to be holding back for right now, calling today the final warning. Today is the final warning for Iran to do what they need to do, or we are going to launch what was Economic D-Day, which is now Operation Outcast, against them and hit them with huge sanctions to help try to crumble the economy even worse than what it currently already is, which is a 2 million to 1 exchange rate to the US dollar. Now, while technically speaking, this does sound like it could be good, but on the other side of it, though, we have from the CIA analysis, Larry Johnson, who has hit the nail on the head, stating the foundation of this whole campaign relies on one massive assumption. All right, so the assumption that this will work is that Iran still relies on the US dollar in the world market, which, as we have seen with the work with China and with other countries, but mostly with China, they are using the yuan instead. So the issue is before we even started this, we had seen that Iran is already pulling away and distancing themselves from the US dollar into the Chinese currency by trading and selling to China. So they have been working with China, establishing their currency in exchange with the Chinese currency, breaking away from the US dollar, which on their part is very good on their part, because if they break away from the dollar, that means that if we utilize the dollar against them, then it is not going to affect them because they aren't relying on it. So what happens to the dollar does not affect them because they are using another currency outside of the dollar to keep themselves stabilized. So, with Iran being big traders with China, they have pulled away from the dollar, so they don't need the US dollar. Which means that if they don't need the dollar, then this whole plan of utilizing the dollar against them is not going to work and not going to actually help crush the economy and make an economic outcast like what we are planning, because we can't bankrupt a currency relying on a dollar when the currency's base does not revolve around the dollar. So if it does not revolve around the dollar, or associated with the dollar, then that means that whatever happens to the dollar does not affect them, because they do not care what happens to the dollar, because it does not affect them, because they had successfully taken the economy to where it needs to be so that they could break away from the dollar, because they see the potential danger of having the currency tied to the dollar. This is why they are going to BRICS in China to try to establish a base with China so they can rely on the Chinese currency and not have to worry about the American dollar. So, with this, keeping this in mind, if they really are severed from the dollar, then this whole operation is just going to go completely down and do nothing. Because we can't bankrupt an economy that doesn't rely on what we're bankrupting. So, it has been shown that they are increasingly not needing the dollar in exchange for switching over to the Chinese currency. So that is why this whole Operation Economic Outcast, Economic D-Day, or however you want to phrase it, can be a complete and utter failure and just completely fire back into the face of us by doing absolutely nothing. That is what has happened there on that front. Now, following this, Iran has had a few good responses along with China. So, firstly, starting over with Iran, Iran has vowed to retaliate against us after the sanctions. This comes after President announced the new sanctions and the operation. So the new sanctions will target the 5 key sectors of digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping, alongside oil. This is what the U.S. is saying that we are going to be targeting with these new sanctions against Iran in this. The next thing is that sanctions will be on 60 entities, vessels, and individuals. That's the second thing. The Iranian military involved in weapon procurement and attacks on us, network supplying Iran, shippers and brokers moving Iran oil for the UAE, China, Singapore, and Europe, and Iran cyber actors accused of targeting the U.S. infrastructure. So, those are some of the new things that we are doing, and why Iran has vowed now to retaliate against us and continue to push forward in this war against Israel that they need to try to pull back. All right, so that is just a basic response from Iran, which is kind of crazy because it's basically like the whole Canada situation. We tariff you, you tariff us, is basically the same thing. And we sanction you, oh, we'll get you back for this. You just watch. You just watch. We have not shown you everything we can do yet, but we are going to start to show our hand now with these new sanctions. So you need to be prepared for this fight. That is what Iran is saying, is that we are going to ignore your sanctions, ignore what you're doing, and because of this, you need to now watch your back, because now we are going to show you that we are not going to stand for this, and that we are going to retaliate now and make sure we get you out of this. So that is what Iran's response is to this. Is basically, we're just going to continue attacking you until eventually we either get you or something massive happens and they go bye-bye. Yes, so Iran is basically just restated the same thing, that they're going to keep attacking us over and over again because of the new sanctions. Because of the economic Outcast, which was Economic D-Day, which was announced will be happening soon. We'll just have to wait and see the latest on that coming from him later. Now, China, they have said a few words on this. A few things that China has stated in their response to the whole Economic D-Day, Operation Economic Outcast, whichever you want to use. China has basically stated that to them, this is not going to work. This is not going to do what you think it's going to do, and it is not going to work how you're thinking. So, that is what they said before we got to this point. Now, they have said that they are firmly against all sanctions on Iran, and that because of this, they are going to start and put sanctions on us as a form of fighting back, which I don't remember where it is, but last I saw and heard would be about 10%. Oh, here it is. China plans to impose 10% retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Yes, so they are going to put a 10% tariff on us because of our sanction push on Iran, because they are supporting Iran, which with this happening is now going to make the meeting next month between the president of China and Trump a lot more interesting now. It'll be a lot more interesting now, the meeting between these two, because now, with them retaliating against us, how are we going to settle, and what are we going to do about this meeting happening next month between China and the U.S.? We'll just have to see how this plays out. Because we are strongly against Iran, they are strongly for Iran, and they don't think this is going to work, and they're retaliating with the tariffs on us for us against Iran. And according to them, they think it could disrupt the global economy. Well, I mean, it could. Anyone that relies on the US dollar outside the US needs to be prepared for this to happen. Which, this goes to what I said a while back about why, if you can, you should invest in gold, silver, and other metals that will retain value in case of another economic crash. Because then, even if it crashes, you have your gold and silver that you can then use for bargaining, trading, and anything else. So by getting gold and silver, you're essentially spreading your assets and you're allowing yourself to break free from the dollar. So that's like what I said before. If you can, you need to get gold and silver, whatever you can afford. That won't hurt you. And make sure to keep that safe, because right now the prices of gold and silver, or the price of gold is really high. Silver has dropped a little bit, but at the same time though, silver is still decent. It is still decent. So just because silver is not as high as gold right now, don't ignore silver. If gold is too high for you, go in on silver. That is the play. That is the play. And I just saw here about how we were talking about China and the economy. The central bank is injecting 500 billion won into the banking system to fund government bond sales. Yeah, government bond sales. Let's see. Whoa. So 500 billion won let's see. Is 74 billion .3 US dollar. That is a whole lot of money. That is a massive amount of money. Now, we just need to find out, why are they doing this? So they can get more? So they can continue to help Iran? So that they can help continue safeguarding themselves from us opposing Iran? There can be lots of reasons why they're doing this. Just like how it hasn't started yet and we haven't done it, but here in a few months, the government may be buying bonds. Yeah, Bezant was asked this, and he had stated that we had not bought any bonds yet. But there's a chance that we may buy bonds here in a few months if something happens. So there could potentially be bonds that the U.S. is buying to help with fueling this war with Iran that we have been brought into with the others. So that is what is happening there in terms of now China injecting tons of money into buying bonds, and how we have not managed to buy any bonds yet, but could be potentially buying bonds. Which I will say now, I'm not completely sure currently what exactly it would do. So I don't necessarily know if this is a good or bad thing necessarily, because I don't know enough about bonds in this situation. But what I can tell you though is, if we haven't got any bonds yet in this war, and we are now getting to the point where we are considering getting bonds, it probably is not a good thing. At least I think. I'm just saying. I don't know enough about bonds, but from how I'm reading this, it's probably not a good thing. Because if it was a good thing, why have we not done it yet? That's all I'm going to say about the bonds is I don't know whether or not we should get them because I don't know enough about it. So if you have anything, let me know more. I'll find out more later, but let me know what you know about bonds and whether or not you think that we as America should start buying bonds again, like what is potentially going to happen here in months. So that is what is happening there, and the fact that China is doing it does not really help with how I am viewing this. But that's just how I'm seeing it coming from someone who doesn't know enough about bonds to determine if this is a good thing, but from reading it, it could potentially be bad. That's how I'm reading this, which could be completely out there and wrong, but we'll have to see. Tomorrow I'll know more about bonds. I'll find out more later, so then I can come back and then we can go into what bonds are and how they can be good or bad depending on the situation in the war. That is what is happening there on that end. Now it's time to go into Russia and Ukraine. So I'm gonna pull this up. Here we go. According to Russia, they have said that according to Russia, the Ukraine war could last until, are you ready for it? 2030. Yes, the big 30, 2030. That is insane. That is with our military task achieved. Like, wow. 2030. Like, wow. You're going to continue to go to 2030 with war with this country? Like, wow. That's crazy. Like, why? Why is this so important to you? We know the reason why to Ukraine it is essential right now. Because if this war continues going, then Zelensky can use this under murder law, which he has stated that an election right now would destroy the country. So by using this war with murder law, just like the last election, it can get canceled again so that he can then stay in power. Because if they can't have an election, there's no vote. And if there's no vote, then he can stay in power. And if he can stay in power, then he can continue to do what he wants. And because there wasn't an election, the people did not have a say in it, which is why they want this war to continue. So the last election that got postponed can be the same as this one that got postponed. So Zelensky can stay on his high horse in power and control Ukraine. So that is why Russia saying that this war could go to 2030, essentially, in a way, is good for Zelensky. Because then he can stay in power. It's that simple on that side of it, which, well, that shouldn't happen. It's that simple. I understand the whole murder law thing, but at the same time, if the guy is not doing right, even with it, they need to kick him out, get someone new in there that actually listen and actually try and get this settled. Because it seems he's not doing that. It seems he is not trying to actually necessarily help this. At this point, it's almost like he is somewhat helping this war and escalating rather than trying to settle it. Which, like I said, makes sense because the longer it goes, the longer Mayo Dollar, the longer he can stay in power. It's simple. The guy is just going on a power trip in this by keeping the war going with Putin. So that is why he needs this war to continue going onwards. And now Ukraine has agreed. Let's see. Oh, okay. So this is good. This is real good. Ukraine has agreed to a U.S. request. Oh, they're listening to not strike Moscow, St. Peter's, and other northern Russian regions for 3 days while CIA director travels to Russia. So, if we're sending people over there from the CIA, Ukraine is not going to strike them, which is great. Now, if only we could get this to be settled without relying on us traveling over there to have talks with them and letting them know that we are going to be occupying this. We need this to happen so they can stop striking them without us being there. That is what we need. But the fact that they listen to us and is like, okay, we're going to bomb you while you are there, that is a great thing right there. So they at least now are somewhat listening and understand that if the U.S. is here, we need to stay back and wait for the U.S. to leave, or else we're going to have a big issue with the U.S. So that is a good start right there. A really good start right there. Nextly, let's see. Bezant makes clear China is not exempt from punishment if they work with Iran, stating no one is above the reach of U.S. sanctions. Well, we'll see about that. We will see about that now. So, now, let's get into this. That is what is happening now about the new flock surveillance. So, in Knoxville, Tennessee, they have now replaced flock cameras with Axon. Okay, so I had to do a little digging here, but Axon is a company that acquired the Israeli police technology company Carby, originally reporting Homeland Security in 2015. It was valued at $625 million. Okay, so now we have an idea of it. Nextly, Carby was secretly, and this was kept hidden, it was secretly co-founded by Jeffrey Epstein with $1 million investment through a holding company that was set up by Ehud Barak, which was the former prime minister. And this was revealed in emails that the DOJ found in the Epstein case files. So, we now have Axon, which acquired this company that was secretly co-founded by Jeffrey Epstein and is now trying to take over. And it gets worse though. The largest shareholders in Axon is BlackRock and Vanguard. Yes. If you know anything about BlackRock, oh, that is a really bad sign there. That is really bad. But something else that that's not been disclosed necessarily, but find out, is that the president has actually purchased about 1 to 5 million in Axon stock. So this would actually benefit the president also, since he has holdings in Axon. So this would benefit him if he was to have it spread across the country, which is not good. And some of the claims is, oh, it's safe and effective. It's for your own good. The Flock CEO said that Americans can't ban the Flock cameras because they're apparently for our safety. Really? Then how have we managed to go for so long without it then? Huh? We've gone so long without having Flock cameras, so we obviously don't need them for our safety. We know that it is for the elites and the people in Congress to watch us so that they can monitor the people to have them do what they want. And if they start to oppose or put up a fight against them, then they can be like, okay, this person, oh, we seen you going here, we seen this, we seen that, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is for your safety. This is for your safety. And it's like, what? How is this for my safety? And this was actually leaked by Attorney John Sarkon III. Sarkon III. He said, if you don't have Flock cameras, all right, how are law enforcement going to detect and see someone walking around, possibly looking to blow up your home, your state capital, or commit terrorist acts? Okay, so right there, the guy just admitted that these cameras are being set up for surveillance to watch people walking around. And if you get spotted and potentially marked suspicious by these cameras, they'll be able to get you. Besides, you look suspicious or something, oh, well, too bad. The Flock camera, they got you. And depending on where you're at, it could be Axon next. It just depends on whether or not they're using Flock or Axon in your city. Either way, they're both bad. And according to the left and others, the public should accept being watched. No, we shouldn't. We should not be. Wait a minute. All right. And we are back now. So, like I was saying, they are saying that we need to be watched and accept that as normal, which we should not, because we should have our fair privacy and not have to fear going outside and being watched everywhere we go in case we may potentially do something. This is not right. We should not accept it. This should not become a new normal that should be accepted. This goes completely against our Fourth Amendment in the Constitution, which protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government, which this is completely unreasonable searches that they are using with these cameras and seizures by the government. So this is completely against our Constitution, and we need to stand up to this and show them that we are not going to let your flock cameras or Axon or whatever other camera company you're going to use take over and surveil us everywhere we go. And if we do something you don't like, know exactly where to get us and what to do. We are not going to stand for this, and we should not. That's why we should not stand for this, and people need to know and remember that we were founded as a country to be free, and the Fourth Amendment stays permanently even if they put up flock cameras, because a free country does not track its citizens. Besides, we are not like the UK and such. It is not like something we already don't know about. Like, we know about that if you want, like, traffic lights, depending on the ones, have cameras that can spot your license plate and such. They aren't the greatest, but they are there. We know this. But they are trying to do so much more by expanding it outside of the traffic and onto the people, especially at, say, gun ranges, to monitor who's going in and out to see who is showing the Second Amendment, so they can then take away the second, and by taking away the second, they can then pull out the military and take over. So that's why we need to stand against the flock cameras and the left trying to push this onto everybody with the help of big tech. This is the issue with big tech working within the government to claim it's for our safety and not listening to the Fourth Amendment that we have and have been founded on, that isn't just going to disappear because you don't like it. It's that simple. They cannot do this. And if they keep doing this, hopefully they want our business, because someone recently won $300,000 for suing, I think it was Flock, because one of their cameras got them, like, reported, even though they did absolutely nothing. So it was a misreport on the camera, and the court decided the person won because it was a mistake on Flock camera's fault. So this is why we need to stop big tech and the left from coming in and doing this. This is why we need to let them know we don't want this, and that we will take this into our own hands to get rid of this if we need to. But we need to all remember, we need to do this in a peaceful way, because if we don't, things are going to get bad, and they're going to use it that, oh, this is what can happen if you don't have them. So we need to make this peaceful to try and get this out. And if we need to stand on our First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment that protects us from these unreasonable searches and surveillance from the government. That is what is happening there on the side of flock cameras, and how they could be essentially replaced now by Axon, which is just as bad and potentially worse, because it was founded by the former prime minister and had Epstein involved in giving money through a secret way that the others did not know about except the Israeli prime minister, because he's the one that walked to get Epstein involved in acquiring Axon. So we wouldn't even know Axon was involved with him if we didn't find the files from the DOJ. So Axon being secretly co-founded by with it being secretly co-founded by Epstein and being massively held by BlackRock and Vanguard is not what we want. So that is what is happening there on the side of Flock losing and Axon becoming the new Flock, depending on your area and how they are going to spread Axon for your protection and safety. It's just crazy that they think that they can do this, but that's what they want to do. So if that's what they want to do, they can go ahead and do it. But we are going to fight for this, because this is not constitutional. And they never did this before, so we need to stop it now. So, real quick now, we're going to hit a commercial break, and then we'll be right back with Comcast.
Laser beams activated.
Alright, and we are back now to get into the situation with Comcast happening. So, Comcast Xfinity routers now have a function called Wi-Fi Motion. This is an opt-in feature, but I'm saying it now. Do not enable this feature. Do not allow Wi-Fi motion to be turned on in your location. If you need to, switch away from Comcast Xfinity routers and use something else, because this is not good. Because what this does is it uses the Wi-Fi signals to detect things such as motion, gesture recognition, biometric measures, and other such things. So essentially, with this turning on, you're creating a timestamp log of movement in your home from your devices, which then Comcast has stated in the documents can be disclosed under a subpoena, a court case, or a search warrant. And the biggest part and best part for them, they don't even have to tell you. So they're now giving you what they call Wi-Fi motion as a security feature, which really is just, here you go. You can track me going in and out of the home and people in the home and use any of the data in any court case, search warrant, or anything else you want without letting me know. This is what you can do. So if you have this, make sure you do not opt in. I repeat, do not opt in. This is not what you think. The foundation for this is CSI, I found, which is channel state information, which is a low measurement that the routers use to optimize the data transmission going from the router to your device, depending on whether or not you're using a phone, a computer, or whatever it is. So the only way around it, if it is enabled, is to just not use your internet. It is that simple. And this can be used to give into the police against you. So this is a really bad thing. And it gets worse when you look into the fact that because this is running off Wi-Fi, dangerous people, you can make your own portable Wi-Fi sensing device. And if you can hack into places, you can essentially use a device to determine the general location of the people in the building, how many people are in the building, etc., through a device just by getting into the Wi-Fi, by making your own Wi-Fi sensing device. And the worst part is, unless you just block Wi-Fi or don't have Wi-Fi, there's not really a way of blocking Wi-Fi sensing. That's the worst part about it, is unless you just don't use Wi-Fi, you can't really essentially block it. Now, I know because I looked it up that this sounds similar to radar. But the difference I found is that instead of reading the optimal path between the connections going back and forth between device A and device B, with radar, it has a transmitter that sends out the radio signals and then a receiver that catches the reflected energy coming back from the target, which is essentially whatever sort of device it hits. So like if it hit a ship or something, that would be what it reflects back. So that is how they are slightly different. And radar works without Wi-Fi, whereas Wi-Fi sensing requires you to have Wi-Fi. So that is the difference, and that is why this Wi-Fi motion for your protection and in Comcast Affinity routers needs to be disabled, which it is by default, which is good. You better make sure you don't opt in, or you could essentially be letting the police and anyone else know what you are doing, how many people are in your location, and all sorts of other small stuff that will be tracked through this Wi-Fi motion option, which you can disable, which is disabled. And if you're thinking about joining it, don't. Because this is not good. Now, if you want motion detecting, the best way is using your own system that you control so that it is not going off to who knows where to who knows who to just watch. So that is what is happening there. And if you have it, well, you can use your rights and such and then not have to give it unless absolutely necessary. So this is what is happening here with Comcast and Xfinity's new routers. Now, for now, that's all we got for now, but we'll be back tomorrow finding out more about what happened with potentially the secret meeting with Russia and what is continuing to happen in the Middle East and new potential advancements in the Middle East. So I'll be back tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and goodbye.